What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Thursday? Jack, it's 1 week until the NFL draft. We are counting down the days, and it only took us 1 week from the draft to find the dumbest thing I have seen all draft cycle long. And this regards the Tennessee Titans, but really, it's a pretty dumb thing that might be put out there for a lot of NFL teams. But the dumbest thing for the Titans in the mock draft world that has come up this morning. We'll discuss that, and then we'll dismiss it after we expose the dumbest thing that I've seen this entire draft cycle and ask everybody here in the chat what would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th overall pick. Because we've talked a lot about good players, right? Joe Alt, Neighbors, Adunze, trading back. There's a lot of good options for the Titans, but this is the dumbest. And what is the worst? Like, what is going to make people pull their hair out mad on Thursday night, a week from today? So we'll discuss that, Jack, throughout the show. And then we've got some video of Uncle Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com talking about DeAndre Hopkins' future. And that's a really interesting comment from Jim Wyatt. And we'll play that later in the show. I've got the magic bucket to my left. Jack, you missed me on Monday when I was wearing my wig and my hat, paying off the magic bucket from last week. That was a surprise for everybody after I forgot to do it on Friday. So the magic bucket back again. So we're going to have a really strong show 1 week from the draft. Welcome in. Let's get this thing off and rolling.
Hey, happy to be here on this Thursday. We are 1 week away, people. We've officially made it. Well, we've almost made it. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft. I know we're all excited to get there. But first, we're going to talk a little mock draft today, like Austin said, plus an exciting conversation beyond that. I think all of you guys are going to be entertained with that, so stick around. But before anything happens, we got to make sure we're doing our homework before the show. So people, if we're watching on Facebook, let's share the show. Let's share the show on Facebook. Share it to your Titans groups. Let's grow the conversation. Let's get more people in here. Let's build the audience, and let's have a great conversation where we can take the temperature of the fan base. I know everybody's got opinions at this point. We want to hear them all today. I want to hear the chat on fire. I know you guys are going to come with it. So let's get that going. Let's like the show. Let's share the show on Facebook. On YouTube, tap that bell icon near the top of your screen. You turn that bell icon on, you get your notifications on, and you get an update every time A to Z Sports goes live or posts any piece of Titans content to their YouTube channel. Here's a spoiler alert. There's going to be a Tighten Up podcast interview with Stoney Keeley popping up there sometime today that you guys do not want to miss out. Talk about making the draft fun. Stoney Keeley did that with us. I'm excited for you guys to get a chance to listen to that. Next, if we're watching on Twitch, let's text that Twitch link around to our Titans text groups. Like with the same deal with Facebook. We're going to grow the conversation. We're going to grow the show. The more people we have in here, the better for the company. It helps us. It helps the chat. And it helps the show grow organically. So let's text that Twitch link around. Like the show on Facebook. Like the show on YouTube. Share the show no matter what platform you're watching on. And Austin, let's get the show on the road.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. Excuse me, allergies. I'm Austin Stanley alongside Jack Gentry of the Tighten Up podcast, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Your Health Plans. Get better with Farm Your Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota. Oh, my gosh.
You want me to take over?
Krebs Kubota. Murfreesboro, Columbia, and Franklin, Elite Kubota dealer, KrebsKubota.com. Jack, please promote your Tighten Up podcast while I try to save myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Tighten Up podcast, guys. You tune into all these draft shows. You listen to, different radio shows, and sometimes those can get boring. And, talking about the draft and all the situations, we've kind of exhausted a bunch of that stuff. Like across the city, we've pretty much hit on every scenario possible. Well, that was until we had Stoney Keeley on the Tighten Up podcast this week. He compared draft prospects to local Nashville restaurants. He made a few different points on why the Titans should deviate from the plan. what prospects the Titans should be looking at in the second round. So it's a really fun and in-depth conversation with Stoney Keeley, which I feel like it can either be fun or in-depth. Rarely do you get fun, in-depth conversations about the draft. We had that with Stoney Keeley, so I encourage everybody to check that out before this weekend and get prepared for this draft. In this interview, you'll learn about a handful of different prospects that you might not have heard about. We talked about who might be this year's Puka Nacua. I'm done spoiling it for you guys, but definitely take some time to listen to it. It's a 30-minute interview. It's really fun. It's painless. And I think you guys will come away learning something.
Yeah, I listened to it yesterday. Austin Huff, the hater of mock drafts, was like, "This was a good mock draft conversation." And so I survived the intro. I appreciate all the comments. I do not smoke. So there's several comments. Orlando says Austin almost died for the ad revenue. Look, you got to take care of our people that help us. So yes, I will put it all on the line for our people and our partners. So thank you for allowing me to regather myself after that god-awful situation there.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. King VC says, Jack, can you drop a link to your podcast? It's up on Tighten Up Pod, or it will be up today on Tighten Up Podcast Twitter and Instagram, but you can find it on Spotify and Apple. So type in A to Z Sports Podcast Network. You'll see the Tighten Up Podcast, most recent episode of Stoney Keeley, and that's where you can find it. So Spotify and Apple under A to Z Sports Podcast Network.
There you go. All right, we've got the worst thing to happen in the mock draft time for this Titans draft cycle. Speaking of King VC, Jack, this is your first show of the week, and King VC submitted a challenge for everybody that is a like challenge. We must have 100 likes a show per platform. Facebook's at 29. I don't know what YouTube's updated at right now because it doesn't have a live update for me, but I believe probably around the same thing. So thank you, King VC. Lock in, like the show, so I can survive this show and hopefully not have another spell or whatever the heck that was right there. YouTube at 35 and Facebook at 36. So when Jack reads the answers to the first question, maybe Facebook will be first. So let's get to the dumbest mock draft or the dumbest Titans draft idea I have seen to date for the 2024 NFL draft. And this is courtesy of somebody who is usually tasked with doing dumb things on ESPN.com that gets a bunch of clicks. And that is Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com, who is behind a paywall a lot of times and down in the basement layer lab of trying to concoct some stupid takes and throw spaghetti at the wall to see what we're going to click on. And guys, it works. It gets clicks. That's why Bill Barnwell is continuously tasked to do dumb things for ESPN.com. And that today, with this NFL draft cycle 1 week before the first round, is coming up with an NFL draft trade for all 32 teams in the first round. So a mock trade for every first round pick, something that doesn't need to be published because you get things with this exercise like the Chicago Bears trading the first overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for Trevor Lawrence and a couple other picks. And Bill Barnwell admits it's an absurd trade. Yes, because this is an absurd idea that doesn't need to be done. So, Jack, now let's get to the 7th overall pick to see what absurd thing that Bill Barnwell forced to publish this morning at ESPN.com. And that is the dumbest thing the Titans could possibly do that is not realistic, is trading the 7th pick, the 38th pick, and Treylon Burks for the 4th pick and the 90th pick to the Arizona Cardinals because Joe Alt might get drafted by the LA Chargers. And Barnwell goes through about the desperate need of left tackle that we all know. Jalen Duncan, NPF, don't project as long-term options. Skoronski is a guard. Andre Dillard failed. We know that. And we know he's shocked if the Titans don't come away with a left tackle solution to their problems for Will Levis's blindside. But Jack, the Titans moving up 3 spots to get a guy who might be there at 7 anyway, and giving up their 38th overall pick plus Treylon Burks to get 90 back and to go up to that 4th spot is the dumbest thing I have seen in a long time. for a Titans mock draft scenario, I will send the floor to you. I'm glad I got through that without coughing up my throat.
Yeah, like I understand. Like I said at the start of the show, we've kind of exhausted all the mock draft scenarios. So you see a story like this with Bill Barnwell, who I feel like just gets on one of these. He gets in a mood where he could just write all these different things about hypothetical scenarios that never end up happening, and you wonder if he's using his time wisely. I guess that's not for me to decide. That's for the analytics guys over at ESPN to decide. But
oh, it's worth their time. I have
yeah,
talked to somebody.
sure.
I have talked to somebody within this calendar year who used to be an editor for Bill Barnwell and knows exactly how many clicks this guy gets on average for like the one or two things he posts each week. And it's stupid.
Wacky.
It is crazy. And the thing about this, Jack, and numbers and how we've gone through website growth and everything, like it's the fact that not only is this guy getting hundreds of thousands of clicks per article, but it's hundreds of thousands of clicks per article behind a paywall where people are subscribing to get that. So it is just the dumbest thing that works in this industry, which is, it happens. But sorry, I'll let you continue.
And here we are 7 days ahead of the draft talking about it. So
yes, exactly.
Look, if the Titans do make this deal, I think it's a massive mistake. If the Titans were one player away, one piece away, sure, I'd entertain it. But they're not. In this draft, they need a tackle, maybe two, a wide receiver, an inside linebacker, a defensive lineman, possibly helping the secondary at safety. They need all these different things. And then, you could go on and on about the depth on offensive line that they need in this draft. So you've got 2 picks in the top 38, 1 at 7. And look, this is a draft where you feel pretty good about one of your big 3 being available at 7. Your big 3 being Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, and possibly Rome Odunze. Now, I understand there might be a drop-off in Titans fans' minds after those first 2 guys, and there probably is, when you view this thing, over, I guess, consensus-wise, it's pretty clear that Joe Alt and Malik Neighbors are getting more love than Rome Odunze. So if I just don't think that all 3 of your big 3 will be gone by 7, and trading up and giving away that number 38 overall is a huge mistake because you can draft a starter there, an instant impact starter at 38, where if you wait around to number 30 overall or number 90 overall, I can't talk. Then, there's no guarantee that guy pans out, and there's no guarantee that guy really helps you a whole lot this year. So look, if the Titans were one player away, they needed a receiver, or they needed a quarterback, or they needed a tackle, and that was it, sure, I'd entertain this thought. But since they are so many pieces away from being a truly competitive team at the top of the AFC, you got to stick with that 38. You got to make these things count. And if you do anything, and if those guys on your big board are gone by the time you're up on the clock, you trade back. You do not trade up.
Yes, I'm with you. And so, like the thing about this exercise from Barnwell is that it doesn't make sense for the high majority of things that he's doing. And Jack, I usually do this about once a year, and it's probably the most disrespectful thing that I do to a national media member every year. But Bill Barnwell is the Warcraft guy from South Park. Like, Bill Barnwell's job is to sit here on his computer, drink Monster Energy drinks or Rockstar or whatever that is, and a handful of Mountain Dews, and concoct things that will never happen and just get clicks. Like, that is my vision of what Bill Barnwell does for a living. And he makes a lot of money doing it, and a lot of people read it, and all it does is piss people off. But guess what? We're going to be right back and doing it again. So it is the most disrespectful thing I do every year, once a year. And so I've hit my quota for 2024. So I apologize to Bill Barnwell. This is not a personal attack on him. He has been asked to do this by his bosses at ESPN because it works. And so, again, the dumbest thing that could be done by the Titans that's not realistic is trade the 7th pick, the 38th pick, and Treylon Burks for the 4th pick and the 90th pick, just so the Titans can draft Joe Alt instead of the Chargers drafting Joe Alt at 5th overall. So, Jack, any response to the Warcraft guy from South Park?
Yeah, there's no sort of 1,000 truths to take him out that the Titans fans have. So we're going to have to stick with him. We're going to have to deal with it.
Okay. Yes, Marcus says controversy sells. When you learn this in journalism school, when you're talking about news, if it bleeds, it leads, right? That's what leads and gets the ratings, unfortunately. And Bill Barnwell's getting the clicks as we speak for this dumb take of 32 trades in the first round, and just bad ideas right there. Okay, so let's get actually realistic with this, because we had some fun poking fun at the Bill Barnwell idea. So, but let's be real. Like, what he just proposed is not real. That is not something Rand Carthon would ever think of doing. I hope. I don't think Rand Carthon would do that. But what would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th pick? So I'll say it again. What would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th pick? And I saw some early comments of like, oh, drafting a punter because Stonehouse is hurt at 7. That's not realistic either. But of the things that have been discussed, of the options that are somewhat likely and realistic, what would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with that 7th overall pick? We'll get to your opinions on that. But first, I want to tell you guys about Krebs Kubota and KrebsKubota.com. They are an elite Kubota dealer in Nashville. They've been serving Middle Tennessee for over 18 years as a family-owned and operated company, and will do everything to help you get the right equipment that you need for your property, for your commercial property or residential, whether it's big or small, if you need a new mower for whatever type of yard or situation you may have, or that bigger equipment with different implementations and other assets with the power units that Krebs Kubota has. They're an elite Kubota dealer, the best equipment and the best warranties to go along with the best customer service. As a family-owned and operated company, they wear their reputation on their sleeves, on their chest, to make sure that you have the best customer service experience you can possibly have, not just when you make the purchase, but afterwards for all the customer service needs and help with those pieces of equipment to buy or to rent for the weekend project this summer, this spring. Krebs Kubota has your back, and check them out online at KrebsKubota.com or one of their 3 locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro with Krebs Kubota.
BetMGM.com, guys, there's a ton of stuff to get in on right now. The NHL playoffs start this weekend. I'm so damn excited for the Preds. Got a nice matchup with the Canucks. We'll see what they can do if you think they can pull it off. BetMGM's a place for you to get in your bets. Also, draft props. I tweeted out a handful that I'm on yesterday. Go check out my Twitter at Jack A. Gentry, shameless plug, for the draft props that I like. You can find them on BetMGM, and even better, when you sign up with BetMGM, new users, make sure to plug in that bonus code that you see on your screen, A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. That way you can take a big swing in the draft, try and pick, a certain player to go, maybe 7th overall for some big money, and you can come out a big winner. And if it loses, no sweat. Up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses for new users when you sign up with BetMGM.com and use our bonus code ATOZ Sports.
All right, so we're asking the question, what would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th overall pick? For people that are just jumping in here, this is based on the dumbest thing I've seen in the Titans draft cycle from Bill Barnwell at ESPN this morning, who did a trade idea for all 32 first-round picks. So understanding it's an absurd assignment from his ESPN bosses, but it just got dumber with every idea that was come up with of the Titans trading 7, 38, and Burks up to 4 and get 90 just so the Titans can draft Joe Alt ahead of the LA Chargers at 5 because of what Jim Harbaugh is saying. So, Jack, I will send you to the chat. We asked this question because Bill Barnwell's idea is not realistic, but what would be the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th overall pick? So, Jack, I'll send you the chat. This is, I see Landon says this isn't even worth talking about. Yeah, the Barnwell thing is just to lead us to this, right? I think this is interesting because we've talked through so many different scenarios, Jack, all offseason long. What would make you the most angry? Because I think the Titans have a lot of really good options here. So I'm curious, what are people saying right here in the chat today?
Yeah, we're going to start off on Facebook with our guy, John Grant, a fellow JG. He says drafting Bowers would be the biggest mistake. David Brown and Jared Morris both agree with him. I'm reaching for Fashanu, says, or Fashanu, says Jake Hughes. I got to work on that. Fashanu. Draft show's coming up. I got to get it right.
One more week. If the Titans draft him, then yes, you have to work on it. If the Titans don't draft him, then you can forget all about it.
Rashid says drafting Drake May. I don't view the quarterback possibility as a realistic situation for the Titans. Olaf Ashanu from JR, trading back from Skip, drafting JJ McCarthy, says Jeff Rubel. Dallas Turner from Devon Bean. And Dallas Turner is probably going to be the first defensive player drafted in this draft. It's not like the Titans can't use an extra pass rusher, right?
Yeah, let's pause here.
Okay.
Because I said this to, what day was that? I said it to Zach on Tuesday because we talked through the Field. Yeah, I think we still have it. Maybe I deleted the graphic, but we talked about the Field Yates Mel Kiper Jr. Draft scenario. Let's see if I can pull this thing back up because I've got graphics right here. But the Field Yates Mel Kiper Jr. draft scenario where the Titans traded the 38th pick and they got Joe Alt at 7. They got edge rusher at 47 and Colson at 70, right? For that trade in the second round. I said to Zach that if the Titans come away with Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, or Roma Dunze, I think that base, that the floor of their draft grade would be a B for me. That one draft pick alone would make the draft class a B at the floor with one of those three guys. And I think Dallas Turner is a really good prospect. And so I don't think that he would be the worst decision the Titans could make with the 7th overall pick. You might not like it, but the guy could be opposite Harold Landry for the next 3 years, and you could have a bona fide pass rushing duo on the outside with Big Jeff on the inside.
Yeah, I totally see that side of the things. We got Richie Guzman saying drafting a right tackle, so Flanga or J.C. Latham might be some guys that Richie Guzman's referring to. New Mexico Titan says second best tackle, Flanga at 7. Choosing Fashanu over Alt. Let's see, trading back past him, drafting a tight end. That would only be Bowers at 7. We've got Dallas Turner, cornerback. I don't believe a cornerback will even go in the top 10. I'd be surprised. Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, a couple guys. But, the Titans have met with Terrion Arnold recently on a top 30. But yeah. I doubt either of those dudes creep into the top 10. What do you think about that?
I'm with you. I think the Titans have met with a few players that kind of tell me that, hey, we're going to meet with a couple of these guys that are probably going to go in the mid-teens just in case the Titans trade back and find themselves in a situation where Terrion Arnold could be the right pick there.
Mm-hmm. And you can never have too many DBs, but after all the money they spent at cornerback, it feels like it's a little unnecessary. It feels like they're loading up at the wrong position.
I would agree.
And I say that after a terrible season last year in the secondary too.
To stick with Scott's comment for a second, to spend some more time on it, it's not going to be my answer. But drafting a corner at 7 would not be ideal. Drafting a corner in the first round, if you trade back, you could see how the board falls and be like, okay, I understand. But still, I think what you said, Snead's here for 3 to 4 years. Awuzi's here for 2 to 3 years. McCreary's got at least 2 more years. So you're drafting a player highly that would not be a top 2 corner for at least multiple seasons. And maybe he can beat out, but I don't think he's going to beat out McCreary in the slot. So really you're drafting your 4th cornerback highly in the first round, who's not going to be a full-time player for at least 2 years.
No, I'm with you. Brock Bowers from Jody Newell, Dallas Turner, passing on Alt.
Nice. Excuse me, you hit the mute button in time for that. That was very skilled.
I was ready for that one. Okay. Trade with the Bills, trading with Buffalo all the way back to 28. That would be a terrible idea. Worst pick is a pass rusher at 7. Alter move on, says JR. Austin, I'm ready to give my answer.
Bring it.
I think that drafting Brock Bowers at 7 would be the worst possible scenario for the Tennessee Titans. And it's not because I don't believe Brock Bowers is going to be a great NFL player, because I do think he's going to be a really good player. But if you don't take a wide receiver or a tackle at 7, you're pushing that back. And when you push that back, those players are hard to find in general, but they're even harder to find in the second round. So I think that deviating from the draft plan would be a horrible mistake. Drafting Brock Bowers, I know that Chig's not perfect, but Chig is passable at tight end. He's passable for now. While you fix up everything else, You come back and get a tight end maybe down the road. But for right now, you don't desperately need a tight end. You desperately need a tackle. And, I know Calvin Ridley helps, but DeAndre Hopkins only has one more year on his deal, although we'll talk about him in a minute. But you need a wide receiver for the future as well. A cheaper option to pair with Levis is those two kind of can keep things cheap on offense while also being productive and young and get into that fast offense that Brian Callahan likes and has used in Cincinnati. So drafting Brock Bowers at 7 overall to me would be the worst possible scenario for the Tennessee Titans. I'd much rather trade back than take a tight end at 7.
What do you think the board would have to be for the Titans to find themselves in that situation?
To be considering Bowers?
Yeah. Like, so if you think 7, if the let's say the Titans get 7 and go with Bowers, what has to happen in the first 6 picks for you to think that that's where they go?
Well, obviously quarterback in the top 2 picks, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3. You've got a team that trades up for a quarterback probably at 4, and then I guess no. What would be the worst would be if Marvin Harrison Jr. went 3, Malik Neighbors went 4, Joe Alt went 5, and Rome Odunze to the Giants went 6, and then your big 3's gone, right?
But then in this case, there's still a QB3 and QB4, right? Because the Patriots not taking a quarterback is where the run on those 4 players happens, right? And that would be interesting because if 2 quarterbacks are still available, whether it's May or Daniels and McCarthy, and now there's less of a desperation, maybe the Vikings or the Raiders are not as willing to move up to 7 because they think, oh, there's 2 guys available. We can wait at 11 and we can wait at 13 and get the 2 quarterbacks, and the Titans are stuck at 7. Is that kind of,
sure.
I think that's kind of what you're thinking there, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that would be terrible. If the demand for a quarterback wasn't as high as we all think it is right now, and look, these things change, especially in the 7 days leading up. So we're right in the pocket there. So if there's not as much of a demand for a quarterback when when the Titans get on the board, then that's going to be a troubling situation. But I really think that it would have to be a super unfortunate situation in order for the Titans' big 3 in Odunze, Neighbors, and Alt to all be off the board by the time the Titans pick at 7. So for me, drafting a tight end, it just kicks the can down the road, and it's not a season where you want to start kicking the can. You want to get Brian Callahan, his guys. You want to get Will Levis, everybody he needs in order to fully develop as a quarterback here. So we get an answer one way or another if Will Levis can be the franchise quarterback after this season. It's a big year for Levis. Give him all the help you can need. Don't go out there and kick the can down the road and find a tackle in the second round. Properly address this situation, and let's get offense right this year.
But doesn't Brock Bowers help you get offense right this year? This is
look,
my pushback because, again, I think Brock Bowers at 7, while you might be like, you could have gotten better value, right? Like you could have traded back and gotten another 3rd rounder or 2nd rounder and gotten Brock Bowers in, 11 through 14. Like, sure, you could, but if you can't pull that off, if nobody's willing to come up and do that, taking Brock Bowers at 7, I think you could do a lot worse. And I've said this throughout the draft process. I think Brock Bowers is going to be a very good NFL player for a long period of time. And you're drafting in the top 10. And if you can get a very good NFL player for a second contract type career length, then you could do way worse at 7.
It's not that they could do better than Bowers, which I do hope they can at 7 overall, but it's the fact that you're going to enter day 3 without either a tackle or a wide receiver unless you trade.
You could get
or defensive lineman, inside linebacker. Like you're still going to have all of those needs, but now you've got to solve them in day 3. Like you need to check off 2 of those boxes in the first two draft picks that the Titans have, and then worry about maybe trading back up into the 3rd round or however they want to do it on day 3. But waiting till day 3 to really address one of these main positions of need would be a massive mistake in my opinion.
Well, so Adrian says Austin is stressing me out with his Bowers take. And I said this, I believe it was the same show that Zach and I talked about it, is I said that if the Titans are only picking twice in the first 2 days at 7 and 38, one of them must be an offensive tackle and one of them must be a wide receiver. But I think if Brock Bowers is the 7th pick, then I think that eliminates the wide receiver from a must draft position with those 2 picks. And now you must use 38 on a tackle because Brock Bowers is now he checks the box of Will Levis weapon. Bing, done. Green check there. And so I think now you can go to the 4th round or 5th round and get another wide receiver. It's more of a developmental prospect that you're not going to have to rely on to be a top 4 pass catcher as a rookie because Brock Bowers checks that box, in my opinion.
Here's the thing, though. Like, the Titans aren't so desperate for a second pass catcher anymore that they would go tight end that early, right? Because you bring in Ridley, and, let's face it, the tight end position, you don't need a Mark Andrews. You don't need a Travis Kelce. You need a guy who can give you 600, 700 yards. And last year, Chigakonkwo, struggles early on, and the quarterback situation wasn't stable, and Chig could have done a whole lot better in a few games. He still put up 530 yards. You just don't desperately need a tight end enough to where you should feel okay with kicking the can down the road and finding a tackle or wide receiver in the 2nd round. Like, if the Titans only had D-Hop and wide receiver 2 was either NWI or Traylon Burks, however you looked at it, then sure, Bowers would absolutely be an option. But because they went out and got Ridley, you've got your 2 top pass catchers there. You've got Pollard out of the backfield, Spears out of the backfield. You don't desperately need a tight end to be the focal point of your offense. If D-Hop was the only guy here, sure, I'd understand it. But since you went out and spent at wide receiver, you aren't absolutely searching for any type of pass catcher to where if, MHJ, Neighbors, and Adunze were all taken before the Titans were on the board, then Neighbors would make sense. Right now, because of Ridley, you don't need a tight end that bad.
Yeah, look, you don't, but I think this is where my stance on the Titans are not drafting for the 2024 season. They're drafting for the next 4 years. And that sounds obvious, but I think it's roster building, it's projecting and staying ahead. I think the reason why there's a lot of teams that are successful is because they find themselves drafting ahead and not having to rely on rookies to be massive playmakers for their team. Like the Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL, yet they're probably going to draft a tackle in this 1st round, even though they have 2 highly paid tackles under contract because Lane Johnson might retire soon. The Titans did this with Taylor Lewan, and it worked out perfectly. They drafted Lewan at 12th in 2014 when Michael Ruse was still under contract, and the right tackle I believe they signed in free agency that year might have been Michael Orr, old blindside guy. So like you're
Shout out Briarcrest.
And Lewan was the 3rd tackle, and he got some reps at guard because, hey, how can you get the best 5 on the field? And guess what? Michael Ruse got hurt in that season. He went down and then retired, and Lewan filled right in for the next several years. And so I think it's how can you stay ahead of these things? And I think drafting a wide receiver or Brock Bowers at 7 is allowing the Titans to stay ahead of things as they're rebuilding for the long haul, but also being competitive in the immediate. So, Jack, you think the worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th pick is Brock Bowers at 7. I definitely think that's going to be one of the more popular answers from everybody. I haven't gotten to mine yet. I will do that. The worst realistic decision the Titans could make with the 7th overall pick. But first, I'm going to tell you guys all about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute. If you missed it, you can go check it out on our YouTube page, or also check out what Jack's going to write about the Ryan Stonehouse Doc Talk segment that we did. Multiple knee ligament injuries with that hurt plant leg on his left leg and a broken bone. We talked to Doctorate of Physical Therapy Dylan Green a couple days ago about the rehab process and about really some surprising things that Sam and I learned from that conversation on Tuesday. So come check that out on our YouTube channel. It's on our Facebook page as well. Our latest Doc Talk with the Bone and Joint Institute. And the Bone and Joint Institute is who you should trust whenever an injury happens in life. Life injury, sports injury for you, your son, your daughter playing youth sports. They've got the experts right there to help you through the injury itself and also the rehab process along the way. So if you need to book an appointment for anything that's ailing you, don't wait too long. don't fumble in that recovery. Check them out online for that appointment at boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, draft props, draft props, draft props. You get in early, you get good odds. They're nice and juicy right now. So sign up with BetMGM. New users, take advantage of those odds. Also, take advantage of this offer. New users, download the app and sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. There's tons of action going on right now. NBA, NHL playoffs are in full swing. You've got the MLB season already underway. Braves starting off hot, even though Strider went down. I'm so sad. But look, there's a ton of stuff to get in on. So get in on it with BetMGM and use our bonus code ATOZ Sports for up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, we got more conversation to come. My worst decision the Titans could possibly make with a 7th overall pick in a second. King VC Super Chat says, lock in, like the show. I did take a sip of water. I'm feeling better right now, but Facebook has less than 30 likes to go to get to King VC's goal of 100. YouTube has less than 20 to go to get to VC's goal of 100. And shout out another super chat here. The Dirty RC Bar says, let's go A to Z. Rick Cruz here. Been a sub since you guys started. Go Titans. So shout out to Rick. He has been here for the long haul. So appreciate him with the super chat there. All right. My worst decision they could make at 7 is taking an offensive lineman not named Joe Alt at 7. I think that's where I feel like, you got played. You couldn't get out of that 7th pick. What Bill Barnwell did is his overall thought process to get to his mock trade was not bad, of saying, hey, Jim Harbaugh's been saying tackle, offensive line, maul them, run the ball, all blah, 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 all this stuff, like Jim Harbaugh, drink milk with your steak at dinner type of thing, like weird stuff, khaki pants, all this thing, like doing Jim Harbaugh things where could the Chargers take Joe Alt at 5? Sure, they could. If that happens, I think the worst thing that could happen for the Titans is taking another offensive lineman at 7 and missing out on the receiver left or missing out on trading back, because I don't hate the other offensive linemen in this class. I just think they're either Fashanu, who's got some question marks about his ability to be a left tackle because of his undersized. He's got those baby hands that you saw from the old Burger King commercials. And I think that matters, because like your grip strength is huge with offensive linemen, and like the smaller your hands, the harder it is to have strong hands. You can have strong hands, but to keep those tiny hands on big bodies there at left tackle. And I think if you get a right tackle like Fuaga, like Latham, again, I'm fine with those players. I just think that you could get more, because if you get one of those other offensive linemen, you still have issues with your roster and your O-line. And so I think the worst decision realistically the Titans can make is taking an offensive lineman, not Joe Alt, at 7. That's how I feel.
Okay. Look, I want to ask you guys a question. You and the chat chime in here. Is reaching at a position of need at 7 worse than drafting a player at a position the Titans don't need? Like, does that make sense? Reaching at wide receiver, or, which might be like a Brian Thomas Jr., or reaching at offensive tackle, which is probably the more reasonable reach with the, with Fashanu, with Flonga, Latham, those dudes. Would reaching at a position of need really be worse than drafting a tight end, or, maybe a defensive guy up there that the Titans aren't in desperate need of? To me, the answer is no. I think I would rather have the second best tackle in this draft at 7 than Brock
Not
Bowers
having him at all.
7. Yes. And here, while you think about that, I'll get to some of the chat. Reaching, they're disagreeing with me. Reaching is way worse. Never reach for a need. Reaching at 7 is worse. Reaching would be a defensive tackle. Reaching is way worse than BPA. Then Patrick Bird's on my side. Okay. And then Guam also agrees with me. So we're a little split in the chat. Yes, Jack, it would be worse. That's how they ended up with Corey Davis at the number 5 pick. And that's an important distinction to make. That's a good note.
So let's revisit that, because I feel like my worst realistic situation of taking an offensive lineman not named Joe Alt at 7 is kind of what happened to the Titans in the Corey Davis draft. And Buck did reporting on this after the fact. It happened 2 years before Buck joined A to Z. But when Corey Davis's career started to not pan out the way a top 5 wide receiver should, you do more homework on that. And my thought is that the Titans liked Corey Davis. They didn't like him as a 5th overall pick in the draft, but there was nothing they could do about it. They had no trade partner, and so it was a desperate need of a wide receiver, and they thought Corey Davis was the best wide receiver in the draft. And so they were stuck at 5. They took the best player available at their biggest position of need. It was a reach for Corey Davis at 5. Would it have been better if they would have taken Jamal Adams, who went 6th overall, I believe, the safety at LSU, right? Would it have been better if they had Jamal Adams with Kevin Byard?
For a couple of years.
Yeah, Jamal Adams, but like that would have been best player available at that spot. And so I think when you're picking 7th, you have to get the best player available that pairs with your scheme. And I think I would take Brock Bowers at 7 over Latham at 7. I think
what about Fashanu at 7? Bowers or Fashanu at 7? Who would you rather have?
I think I'd rather have Bowers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Look, it's personal preference. I think I would rather go Fashanu, but that's just because I want Will Levis to be upright and healthy this season. And I know you can circle back in the second round at 38 and find a decent guy over there. Maybe a Patrick Paul type if he slips to the second round. But I just think it's a way riskier game. And the Titans right now, with Will Levis trying to find out an answer on him this year, they're not in a position to gamble. And I think pushing that offensive tackle problem back to the second round would be too big of a gamble for me if I was Rand Carthon.
All right. So I'm going back to that 2017 draft because I couldn't remember how the rest of that top 10 played out. I knew that Mike Williams went 7 and John Ross went 9. Jamal Adams went 6 after Corey Davis. The 8th pick, Christian McCaffrey, right? That could have been interesting. That was a year after the Titans drafted Derrick Henry, and they still had DeMarco Murray coming off of him leading the AFC in rushing. So McCaffrey wasn't going to be a pick for the Titans. Then here's where I think if you could redo it, you're not going to redo it and say, oh, the Titans would take Patrick Mahomes at 5. Because they had Marcus Mariota coming off of his second year. That was not a thought there, right? But it would have been cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. That would have been your pick at 5 instead of Corey Davis.
Yeah, that would have been nice. That would have solved a lot of issues the Titans have had over the last 5 or so years. So
yes,
but look, yes. Not every draft is the same, and some drafts are a little deeper than others. I do think that this draft is a little less deep than some of the ones we've seen in the past because the drop-off kind of right at 10 is pretty steep in my opinion. And, the Titans are in one of those spots, one of those last spots to get one of the blue chip dudes. And you gotta come correct at 7 on draft night.
Yep, you do. All right. MB says, Austin, you remember Adoree Jackson at 17 too? Yeah, I remember Adoree Jackson was the second pick the Titans had. He was actually at 18. Jonathan Allen went to Washington. Alabama had like a bunch of players in a row, Marlon Humphrey, Jonathan Allen, and then OJ Howard with Adoree Jackson in between. So yeah, the Titans had those 2 picks right there. You could redo that draft all over again and go through a bunch of different things. All right. We got a DeAndre Hopkins conversation to get to. Zachary Smith comes in with a big super chat. Says, thank you, Jack, for calling out Phil Simms. How can you go on national TV and not even look at the roster knowing he's no longer on the team? Talking about Dillard. Thank you, Jack, for fighting the good fight. Go read Jack's articles. Now, it was Chris Simms, but yes.
Yeah, shout out to you, Zachary Smith, for the super chat. Hey, if you see him, click him. If you see him, click him, boys. That's all I got to say.
There you go. All right, so we're going to get to this DeAndre Hopkins video now. So this is Jim Wyatt of TennesseeTitans.com that had something to say about the future of DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm a goof and I forgot to upload it before the show. So while that uploads, I'll tell you about more of our great friends, and that is Farm Bureau Health Plans. They're great partners of the Tennessee Titans Radio. They'll be a part of that draft coverage, I'm sure, coming up next week, and they can help you out with Farm Bureau Health Plans. They can find the right coverage for you for your health situation, with your personal situation, whatever they may be. Farm Bureau Health Plans can have your back to help you save money on your coverage, get the right plan, and be in it for the long haul. With Farm Bureau Health Plans, they've been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years and have continuously doubled and tripled down on their commitment to invest in the community across the entire state, and they've done so successfully. Great customer service, great accessibility, great rates, and awesome coverage to go along with it. So you can check them out online and get a quote with our link at fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Check out betmgm.com if you want to get some skin in the game. Now's the time to do it. I've already talked about everything that's going on in the sports betting world. Get in on the action with BetMGM. Sign up. New users plug in our bonus code ATOZ Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Get some skin in the game. Do it with BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Bonus code A2Z Sports gets you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification, eligible requirements. First online road money wager only. Rewards issued not double bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game of sport, call Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. Let's play Jim Wyatt about the future of DeAndre Hopkins.
I think most people conclude that this is probably the last year for him. Yeah, I do think he likes it here, and I think if he has another good year and wants to keep playing, I think they'll make an effort to keep him.
Yeah,
I talked to him at the owners' meetings. He's a guy that's very enthusiastic about what's been built here and the people around him. He loves Rand Carthon. You know, he's good friends with Calvin Ridley. He's high on Will Levis. I mean, I think he feels like that the way things are going are something he wants to be a part of. So I mean, and again, life after football. I know when Rand talked to DeAndre when he came here, he talked to him not just about his playing career, but just about his business interest when his career's over with, and and Nashville is a perfect place for him to do that, to be in the entertainment business. And he's talked about wanting to run music festivals. I mean, you're talking about the perfect place. I really think DeAndre Hopkins loves Nashville and everything about it. So I could, if as long as he's playing at a high level, I could see him being back in 2025 again, even though his contract's up after this year.
So there's Uncle Jim Wyatt, Jack. I could see him. And look, Jim's not trying to say anything that, for a fact, but the facts are that DeAndre Hopkins likes it in Nashville and he likes it with the Tennessee Titans. So initial thoughts before we ask our question on this.
I mean, if that doesn't bring a smile to your face as a Titans fan, I don't know what does. Has there been a free agent acquisition that's had as big of an impact? And I'm sure Kyle Van Bosch, makes a good case here, but it just feels like DeAndre Hopkins, the fit is so nice. Not only was the production fine last year, more than fine. In a year with revolving door at the quarterback spot, I should say, D-Hop still managed to put up 75 yards, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 7 touchdowns. And the sky's the limit for him and Levis in year 2, especially with the guy on the opposite side in Calvin Ridley, who's going to take some attention away from D-Hop and free things up for him on the other side. DeAndre Hopkins, his value on the field isn't where it stops, though, with him. Like, his value is also off the field and on the sidelines with Will Levis and helping him grow and helping him, see different things that the defense does and find adjustments and just help him develop into the quarterback every Titans fan hopes that he can be. And when you hear Jim say, which he went on to say in this interview, that DeAndre Hopkins is high on Will Levis. Like I trust DeAndre Hopkins as a quarterback, an assessor of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. So D-Hop's not only valuable on the field, but off the field, and he's getting up there in age, but he's still able to produce. So the Titans have him on a 2-year, $26 million deal right now. I think that they could get him on something similar after this season expires if he produces once again, which I believe he will do. But we'll talk about that here in a second. Let's ask this question first, okay?
Yeah.
Buy or sell the idea of DeAndre Hopkins staying with the Tennessee Titans beyond this season? All right, chat. Buy or sell the idea of D-Hop staying with the Titans beyond this season? Austin, I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll jump into the chat.
So DeAndre Hopkins will turn 32 years old in June, right? So he will be 32 for the entirety of this upcoming season, meaning we're talking about he would be 33 in the next year after his contract expires. So I think that's an interesting caveat. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm pulling up his contract situation right now so I can refresh my brain on what he's being paid for this upcoming season. He has a salary of 8.2. He has a cap hit of 18.3 because of the signing bonus that he got from the Titans and how that contract was structured. But he's getting $14 million of cash this year, high cap hit. So how could the Titans bring him back, and what is his role going to be if he comes back in 2025 at 33 years old? I don't disagree with what Jim says, but I'm not going to buy this. I'm going to sell this. I just feel like 33 is a drop-off age for wide receivers. It's not 30, because you see guys, in D-Hop's the case, and Ridley's could be the case too, guys producing at 30, at 31. But man, turning 32, and we're talking about signing him back for his 33-year-old season. I'm going to sell this until I see D-Hop have another 1,000-yard season this upcoming year.
Okay, I hear you. I'm buying it, though. I'm buying it, and so is the chat. I mean, the chat is overwhelmingly buying this. Billy, buy. Linwood, buy. New Mexico, buy. Devin, Jason, Matt, John, Ashley, Steve, Danny, all buys. We've got a couple of sells from Curtis. But, IR Hoshi's also selling. Michael's selling. Jeff Rubel, Colts fan, selling. I would sell, too, if I was a Colts fan. Richie Guzman selling. But absolutely, I mean, look at this. Orlando, Tiffany, Derek, Patrick, Jeff, Bork, Denise, all the OGs here are buying it. I'm also buying it. I think that pairing DeAndre Hopkins with Will Levis through the entirety of his rookie contract is a strategy that's good for the Titans. And if DeAndre Hopkins can continue to produce like he's shown he can do, I mean, even in the last 2 seasons before he signed with Tennessee, he was producing before he went down with an injury and before he got popped for PEDs. And I think that DeAndre Hopkins has at least 2 more good years in him after this. And when you look at what he's getting paid, $13 million a year on average, there's 2 other receivers in this league bringing in $13 million a year. Darnell Mooney and Gabriel Davis. You're getting bang for your buck with DeAndre Hopkins. Neither of those guys are 1,000-yard dudes. DeAndre Hopkins absolutely is. And he's a guy who can take the top off of a defense, score touchdowns, and also bring Will Levis along in his development. So if you can get DeAndre Hopkins back on a 2-year deal, similar to this one, or maybe even cheaper with a bigger signing bonus up front, I think that that's good business for the Titans. And then you bring in a third wide receiver to kind of groom and bring along as, the future, becomes more clear. But DeAndre Hopkins and Will Levis, I think those two need to be together until Will Levis's 4-year rookie contract expires. So I'm on team bring D-Hop back for 2 more years if he shows that he can get to that 1,000-yard number or at least flirt with it this season.
Yeah, I just don't know what the money's going to be because the Titans got D-Hop on 13 per year on a bargain because he was cut by the Cardinals in May and it was a summer free agent when teams were not exactly flush with cap space. So I don't know what a new contract would look like after this one for him as the cap has exploded and will continue to go up. Now, Blake brings up the ultimate outlier. Jerry Rice retired at 42. Surely with today's resources, he could play 2 more seasons, if nothing else to teach. I'm buying D-Hop for another year. Now, I looked this up, Jack. I've got NFL wide receivers in league history who at 33 had 1,000 or more yards in a season. In their 33-year-old season. There have been 20 20 guys at age 33 have had over 1,000 yards. Now, you've got Jerry Rice, who did it in 1995, and he had 1,800 yards. But again, Jerry Rice is insane. Then you've got Henry Ellard, 94. Tim Brown did it in 1999. Don Maynard did it in 1968. Tony Martin in 1998. Now you get into guys that we start to recognize their names more. Terrell Owens with the Cowboys, Anquan Bolden with San Fran, Steve Smith Sr. with the Panthers, Keenan McCardell with Tampa, Hines Ward with Pittsburgh, Marvin Harrison Sr. with Indy. Then you get Julian Edelman with New England, Derek Mason with the Baltimore Ravens, Jimmy Smith with Jacksonville, Larry Fitzgerald with Arizona, Adam Thielen last year with Carolina, and then Donald Driver with and Chris Carter. Donald Driver with Green Bay and Chris Carter with the Vikings. That's it. It's a lot of legit names right there, right?
But doesn't D-Hop fit in that mold, like Chris is saying here? Doesn't he, like, his name belongs in that type of category, I think.
I mean, you're not like, here, let's look at some guys that are just below that. Really, it's Reggie Wayne, John Stallworth. I can't see any further than that. But you're right. I mean, you look at the names I brought up, they're all kind of possession guys, right? I mean, Terrell Owens was different. But Anquan Bolden, I guess Terrell Owens and Steve Smith are the non-possession guys.
Driver?
In this. Donald Driver is a possession guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Chris Carter, Donald Driver, even Jimmy Smith, D-Mace, Edelman, Marvin Harrison Sr., McCardell, Ward, Bolden is the epitome of possession. Maybe Tim Brown and, Jerry Rice was just everything. I'm leaving out Jerry Rice, but he does fit that mold.
But yeah, we're talking about one of the best receivers in the last decade in the NFL. Like, yeah. I think that in D-Hop, look, he put 1,000 yards up last season with the mess that the Titans had going on at quarterback. I just think with a capable OC, like, we don't know what this is going to look like yet on the field. And I think that's part of what makes this season so exciting right now, is because we don't know how this offense is going to look, but it's not going to look worse than last year's, right? That would be impossible. Yeah. So I think that DeAndre Hopkins' ceiling has been raised a little bit. I get that he's getting older, and I get that he turns 32 in June, but I think that he can do this for a few more years. And I think the perfect situation would be you bring DeAndre Hopkins back on a 2-year deal, but you got like a team option heading into that second season to where you give yourself an out if you need it. And maybe you front load that deal. And
you basically sign him again to a very similar contract that you did last year, is what you're saying.
Give him all the money up front and then however you want to structure it, and then have the team decide whether or not they want to bring D-Hop back for that 4th and final year of Will Levis's rookie deal.
Yeah, and so Steve asked me, am I buying now? Look, I said I'm selling this until I see DeAndre Hopkins go for another 1K year this season at 32. I'm selling it until I see him at 32 still look like he did at 31. So that is my stance on that. I think it would be I'm not going to hate on if the Titans bring him back, like, okay, smart move because the continuity and all that stuff. So I'm not going to hate on it. I just don't think it's as realistic is why I'm selling.
All right, let me ask you one question before we get to the bucket.
Okay.
Is there a floor? What is the floor number, or what is the floor level of production for D-Hop this year where you say, all right, I want him back? Anything below that, I'm cool with him leaving. Is it 1,000 yards?
I mean, there's situations to it.
Play my game though.
I know. I'm trying to play it smart. He's got to stay healthy, so that's a part of it, right? So
sure.
Staying healthy has him. I think his floor would probably be 800.
And you'd want him back if it was more than that.
I think if he has 800 and he stays healthy, and I understand that there could be some circumstance stuff, like as Michael says, what if Ridley goes off as a number one, right? But if Diop comes in and is 800 yards in the season and averages 14 to 15 yards per catch and scores 6 to 8 touchdowns, then I can say, okay, let's look at what the new contract could be.
Okay.
Anything less than that, he's either gotten hurt and missed time, which makes me skeptical, or he's seen part of his game drop off because he's 32.
I think
I believe
those are fair. Those are fair expectations, and I think they're absolutely realistic for DeAndre Hopkins to achieve.
Okay. I like it. Sounds good to me. Jack, it is that time to hit the magic bucket. Shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see Payne Bone, who runs the show out there at Wilson County Hyundai, or see him in Lebanon at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. It is bucket time. I believe I go first this week because you went first last week. I did wear my wig on
I saw
Monday.
that. You looked great.
I thought I pulled it off. Now, Zach is actually trying to grow his hair out to look like that in real life. That is not something that I would do. This is tough. Give a step-by-step tutorial on how to change a tire.
See, I'll be honest with you, Austin. If you made me go change a tire right now, I don't know that I could do it. Gone are the days of real men. Now we're just sitting behind our laptops with soft hands. Everybody has soft hands now, including myself.
I have never had to change a tire. I have been taught how to change a tire, but I've never had to execute it. And when I was taught how to do that, I would say it's probably over 15 years ago.
Okay.
So, step-by-step tutorial on how to change a tire. You go to youtube.com. You type in how to change a tire. You click on the video that's the shortest, that has the most amount of views, and so what you do is, or you
the chat's not happy with us right now. I'm telling you.
Or you call AAA is something that you can absolutely do. So, all right, here's my answer. You hopefully have a jack and a spare somewhere around your vehicle, in your trunk or underneath, right? So you go back there and you get the spare and the jack out with the tools. You then jack up crank it up, right? And you put that in front of, you put it in the middle of the car, right? So if it's the back tire, you put the jack in front of the back tire. If it's the front tire, you put the jack behind the front tire, right? So you crank up the jack to where the tire is off of the ground. Then you start to undo the bolts. You undo the bolts, you take the bolts off, and then you continue to pull the tire off, and then you put the new tire on, and then you tighten the bolts. That is
tighten the nuts.
Right? Tighten them up, right? That is what my understanding and recollection is. And, yeah, thank you. You have to unjack the car, because you can't just drive after that. That would be bad. So last step, and apparently I'm wrong, which is fine, which is why you go on and you YouTube the best way to do this. So yeah, lug nuts, but whatever. It's, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Steve Jones gives us a step-by-step process. Loosen the nuts, jack the car, take the tire off, put new tire on, tighten nuts, unpack car. I mean,
unjack car, I think, is what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it gets pretty sus there in those steps. But yeah. So look, changing a tire, don't think I could do it gun to head right now without a YouTube video to teach me how. But I do believe the steps: you jack the car, you take the nuts off, you put the tire off.
The step one that I didn't see is loosen the lug nuts before jacking up the car.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that seems like a key trick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Don't forget to loosen those nuts, people. All right. Now back to the bucket. Are we good on changing the tire?
Maybe.
All right. That was fun. Oh, that was really fun.
Jack, I don't know if you've had this. Have you ever been told you look like somebody famous, and who was it?
No, not really.
But you haven't
Usually
been asked this yet, have you?
Usually people that look like me aren't very famous. No, but I haven't been asked that before. I don't know. Chat, help me out with this. I want to hear what the chat thinks. I think this could be really funny. Chat, is there a celebrity out there that looks like me?
I don't
know. Anything come to your mind? I don't think I've ever been told this.
You've never had somebody say, you remind me of somebody.
No, I don't think I have.
You're a true 1 in 6 million, Jack.
Yeah, I don't know. Hockey player maybe with a mustache. Okay. Take your hat off. Got bedhead, so simply will not be doing that.
American Toff says Jesse Plemons.
Oh no, really?
Who is that?
Oh gosh. He's the kid in is it Friday Night Lights? The red-haired, fair-skinned guy. He's in a lot of different things, by the way. He's great.
Well, he's married to Kirsten Dunst, so he could do worse.
Yeah. Jonah Hill. Jesus.
Oh, we've had Jesse Plemons as a celebrity mashup before, and he's actually gotten. I think he's lost a lot of weight and gotten
he's
trim.
Handsome. So
Yeah,
I'm handsome. Okay, I'll take that.
I wouldn't hate on Jesse Plemons. I could see it a little bit.
Ken says I look like a trucker. Do you know what a lot lizard is? Yes, I watch Always Sunny. Let's see. Okay, look, I'll hear Jesse Plemons just because my skin is translucent at this moment. But we're going to the beach this weekend. We're gonna fix that. A young Jim Gaffigan. Okay,
you know what? I think that's a good.
That.
I think that's it. I think BMO's right. I think a young Jim Gaffigan is pretty spot on.
Good work, BMO. I agree with that. I think that's close. Jordan Moore's, I don't know, a Jack Sparrow. Sure, I'd take that any day of the week. All right, young Jim Gaffigan. I'm going to roll with it. Orlando says I'll accept that if I were you. All right. Okay, young Jim Gaffigan. I'm cool with that.
Young Jim. Jack's just a young Jim Gaffigan.
Young Jimmy G.
Jack Gaffigan. Okay, there you go. Solid. I do think it's always funny that people see different things in different other people that make you think they look like. Some guy on Twitter thinks I look like Kyle Phillips. Me and Kyle Phillips look nothing alike. But the fact that we're around the same height and size, and I'm white, no, I do not look like Kyle Phillips. You do not look like Jack Sparrow. You do not look like Morgan Wallen. But then there's still the answers right there in the chat because people pull different things. Or Zach Galifianakis. You do not look anything like that guy. But then I've seen that answer. It's funny of how that works.
I feel like it's just so much easier to play at like a restaurant or a bar, But when you're put on the spot, it's really hard to come up with, that one guy, especially when you're just an average white male like myself.
Orlando says he definitely looks like Kyle Phillips. I do not look like Kyle Phillips. There is nothing about me that looks like Kyle Phillips. If you actually look at it, I do not. We do not look like each other whatsoever.
All right, so the chat knows how to piss you off now. Just tell him he looks like Kyle Phillips whenever.
No, it's just I just don't get it. We don't like. It's nothing against Kyle Phillips. We just don't look like
Grayson Allen. What about Grayson Allen? Different hair, kind of. Are you a tripper?
No. I could understand Grayson Allen a little bit. I mean, I don't think I look like him, but I could see how other people would. But anyway,
that's funny. We could go all day with the chat too. The answers just keep rolling in.
Yes. All right, Jack. Let's wrap up the show for today. We're so close to 100 likes on Facebook, so make sure you add to that like pile. VC wants us to get to 100 likes on Facebook and 100 likes on YouTube every day this week. It's Thursday. So far we've gotten there. We've gotten there on YouTube. All we need is 5 more on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook and you haven't liked it, hit that like button, please. We're growing closer. 3 away as the countdown continues. That'll do it for us. And Sam and I will see you guys tomorrow morning on a Friday. Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime. We'll catch you guys later on. Appreciate it as always.
Tighten Up Podcast out.